Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for the round 9 review. We're going to hit refresh. Apparently, SuperCoach is open. Let's see how we go. It is. We scored a 2240 this week, which is surprisingly moving me up the ranks, another 50 spots into the top 200. That's nice. And in what was a pretty difficult week for many. So if I go through with what my original thumbnail idea was, it's going to be House of Cards, because it feels like everything we've built our teams on a stack of lies, and a whole bunch of bad stuff's happened this week, whether it's been some of the rookies, some of the mid prices, some of the primos that we've got. Everything's kind of gone badly. So we're going to talk through a lot of stuff, how we kind of manage that, what the priorities are, and of course in the context of the backdrop of the buys, who our targets for this week, as well as some of the rookies are, because that looks pretty scuffed. So normally I'm not dropping 40 to an hour-long videos at this time of the year, but I could see this one going on for a little while just based on how much there is to discuss and players to get through, but we'll see how we go. First, before we begin, happy Mother's Day to all the mums out there watching the video. Cheers to you. I'd wish my mum a happy Mother's Day, but there's no chance she even knows this video exists. So, yes, all right. So let's jump into it. Where should we start? Oh, why not? We've been checking the leagues. Let's check the leagues. We'll also go through a couple of the players that have been, the couple of guys in the leagues that have been doing well as well, including one Lock, who's now up to 4th, and Guigo. Where are you, buddy? Should be around to somewhere. Yeah, here he is. He's 20th now. That's crazy. And his team value, is it still like the most of anyone up here? It's 13.7, which is just nuts. Like, you know, this is 12.7 here. The guy in 16, they're going to pass him easy. 13.7. That's elite team value. I'd be very surprised if there were many more teams that had much better value than that. All right, leagues. Let's have a look at the 2020 team. Whoa. What is this? Something is bugged there, because they've given them a lot more points than anyone else. All right. What is going on there? Something's been stuffed up out of this. All right, 6 team, 8 team. Yep. 10. Oh, look, there's got the top 3 there now. I don't think we had that many 10-team leagues. 12, 18 is the next one. Got the top 2 there, and then into the 20, and that is clearly something that's gone wrong there. That's really weird. Because obviously you can't have a team average of 3.3k. So how they've done that, don't know. But take them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Top 13 league still. All right, pretty good. All right, my team, let's go into that. So, yeah, the 2240, what went bad this week is probably something that happened for a lot of players, which is a lot of the rookies just didn't perform. So, Chandler, 42, Sincotta on the field, 33, Sheezel, who we're kind of counting as a primo, but has been, obviously a rookie, the 68 score as well. Davey on my bench, the 7, which was no good, and then Hopper injured. And so it reinforces the point that we've been saying for a lot of this. You're trying to get these rookies in the mid prices off, get primos on, and that's going to improve your scoring overall. Now, with that said, a lot of the primos had down weeks as well. We had, just talking about guys who went under 90, you had Dawson with the 89, Brayshaw, Anderson, and English all went 88, and I know Brayshaw and Anderson were both popular trade targets. You had Luke Ryan, who's a bit of a pod in defense, but he dropped to 85. We mentioned Sinclair, 65, who I copped, and then Cripps had to 60 as well. So lots of poor scores from primos, and that's not even looking at then the injury concerns that we had. So Parrish was the laid out with a calf injury. Mills had what appears to be a calf. LDU did the hammy at the end of the game. At least he dropped a good score, unlike those poor Mills owners. Steele had a knee knock at the end of the 3rd and then sat out the 4th. Apparently is okay based on what the Saints have been saying so far. Laird got subbed out in the 4th. He got spear tackled into the ribs, pulled up a bit soft, and they subbed him out. Apparently he's also fine. It was just a precautionary rest. So yeah, lots of really rough stuff happening this week, and we're gonna have to talk through how you actually wade through all this stuff. And then so other rookies that I didn't have, but other people did have that scored poorly this week. So McKenna was a popular hold with Rich out. He scored just the 35. Atkins was a popular trading target, 200k, just did the 62. Drury, a lot of people went early on, just the 17, and then Philippou with the 43. So yeah, all really rough scores. Now, of course, there were some bright patches as well this week. So you had Setterfield do well without Parrish in the midfield, which kind of makes sense, although many would have jumped off or needed to jump off because of money. You had Ginby and Ashcroft both go around the ton mark, and definitely hurts me. It's probably one of the reasons why I didn't have a better week, is that even though I've got less rookies, I feel like, than a lot of other people, I don't have Ashcroft anymore, who's now dropped 2 tons on me since I traded him out. Wilmot bounced back and restarted his cash gen, so if you're still holding on to him, that's worked out really well. JVR, after getting off, has restarted his cash gen, so that's worked out well for those that have held him. Samson Ryan, who I've got, has continued to be great. He's going to break past 350, it looks like. Radigalia restarted his cash gen. And then Weddle and Mitchell, who are trading targets for many, also had good weeks from the rookie perspective, but almost everyone else did poor. All right. So it's just a quick recap. We'll go through some of this stuff in a bit more detail. So my team, so where did we fall over? So defense, Stewart, Zeeble, and Dacos were all really good again, which is great. Sinclair had the poorer game, and it was a bit of a weird one. So he had a few touches early, but they were ineffective, and then the game was kind of got out of Saints' control pretty early, and just hard to work your way back in for points. He did so reasonably, but then trailed off again in the fourth. Looked like he was playing forward of the ball a bit. He's got 40% CBAs here. But I mean, this is just a blip in the radar, and part of the reason we got him is because of the good round 12 bye, which still holds true. Like, we need people in that bye. So hopefully he'll bounce back against the Giants this week, which I think it should be a reasonable matchup. Yep, I think that should be fine. They should get a win as well, which will help. Day did the same thing he's done a little bit the last couple of weeks, which is he's had a good 3 quarters and then trailed away in the fourth. I'm not sure if that's like a specific trend or just kind of an oddity of these last 3 weeks where he's left bigger scores on the table by just not closing out games. West Coast this week will be an interesting one because my belief is that Hawks are making some tactical moves to ensure that they don't win games. And I feel like Day and Sicily are the two that could be affected this week if they want to ensure a loss to West Coast, just given the spot West Coast is in at the moment. Sheasel, not even thinking about trading. Some people may ask the question, but for me, I have a terrible round 15 bye. I know many others will as well, but this is just awful at the moment. But yeah, round 15 is probably the time I'd look to move him on and maybe to try and get up to someone like a Dawson if I don't have him at that point. But yeah, what are the next couple of matchups? Sydney, Collingwood, Essendon. It's not a great fixture run. West Bulldogs before their bye will be a nice one. Hopefully get some nice kick mark there. And then Weddle was really good. So I'll talk about Mitchell as well with Weddle, but they both played probably their best games for the Hawks so far, and they both got mentioned by Sam Mitchell after the game, like by name, in terms of like taking a step forward and having a really good game. So I think the job security on both of them is good for at least another week. I mean, I feel like given the depth they have down defense, you can just be one bad week away from getting dropped on this side, but it was good. And then Cowan, like, I just don't see how he gets a game. I don't think he's been lighting the twos on fire, even though Sincotta wasn't good this week. In the only other defenders we're talking about premiums. So yeah, Dawson had the down game. Obviously, wouldn't worry about that. Apparently, he's feeling a little bit off this week, which may have contributed to it. Not really sure. He looks like fine to the eye. He definitely had a negative like fantasy SuperCoach ratio. So I didn't get to watch it in detail, but I'm guessing he might have just had some poor use throughout that game. Sicily had a bounce back game, which was nice for holders. Once again, I'm a little bit suspect about what that will look like against West Coast, even though you'd imagine it would be okay, especially given that they're playing in UTAS, which is a ground that he tends to do well at. Yeah, all right, midfield. So, yeah, really interesting this week with the midfield because it seems like a bit of a delineation between those that are clear, like top line mids, and those that aren't, in a way. So Bontempelli, Oliver, and Petrarca, who's gone past Clary for price, which is pretty crazy, seem like 3 of the best at the moment, to be perfectly honest. And then I'm pretty happy with the Kelly and Green combo I've got, even though that, contributes to my bad buy. I think Libba's really been the only other one that you can look at and go, he's been super solid this year. You'd be thrilled to have him. And then, beyond that, it's been tough because Anderson obviously had a couple of good weeks, but then had the down week. Brayshaw had a down week. He looked okay, at least, I think, which is nice. Mills injury, which is just like such bad luck. Parrish out, LDU injured as well. So, yeah, and then Steele and Laird subbed early. So it's going to be tricky. It's also like at that time of the year we're starting to figure out like who are the top 8 mids for the year because you want to try and get as many of them as possible. And that's what I've been thinking about. Like, who are the top 8 mids from here, and who don't I have in my side? And can I get the ones that work with my buy structure? And so I have a feeling Laird is still top 8 from here, assuming that he gets over his calf. But I think just having a look at his price. So he dropped a pretty big amount because he ended up only scoring the 98, which is good from basically 3/4 worth of game time. Um, he's going to drop more. He plays against the Dogs, who his top score ever against them, I think, is this 123 he had from last year. Yeah, he's played them 10 times, and that's his biggest score ever against them, 123. They are back to being one of the hardest teams to score on in the midfield this year. So I can see him dropping price, especially with a 140 break even. I have a feeling I'll be targeting him not like maybe in the next couple of weeks, maybe during the buys before his buy or just off his buy will be the target for Laird. But I have a feeling he's still top 8 from here. The other ones I like is probably Merritt, who's going to be a target this week and probably talked about for many. Hasn't been the best this year, just the 104 average, and obviously he's had a few poor weeks in a row, just the 3-round average of 97. But Essendon's fixture really starts to open up from here, which a lot of people have talked about, but you've got the double West Coast, double North games still to come, and 2 of those the next few weeks as well. So at his price point, 564, I think he's someone that you would need to consider. And then maybe like if Miller or Steele or someone like that get back to fit, I think maybe you could look at them for top mids. There's a ton that I think could end up being good, if you pick him at the right time with the right fixture. Like obviously Sarong's been good. Anderson, you could still look at. Neil, when he bottoms out, he's going to be pretty cheap. Although he ended up with a 109. He salvaged that somehow. He's just been so inconsistent last month and a bit. Maybe after his buy, you could look at Neil too. I think it's, The one I'm not mentioning, by the way, is Walsh, who is very, 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 very likely to get forward status. So I'm not even really looking at him as a midfield. I'm looking at him as a forward. And I also can't take any of that last buy. So he's going to be an upgrade target for me. All right, got distracted a little bit here. So Petrarca and Oliver, both really nice. I went Oliver into Bont for vice captain. And I didn't even cover my trades, but Oliver was my trade in this week for Warple and Hollands. And the rookie I got in was Weddle. So yeah, pretty happy with Oliver. Obviously, I think starting with him was the right call this year, looking back on it now, just because he provided some good captain scores early. And even though I got him cheaper, it was only about 50k cheaper. Held his value like really well, which is nice. Put out a 125, which I think is fine for 700k. But the good thing about trading him in this week is it meant that I avoided a lot of the bad targets, which people got really unlucky with. And I don't mean bad as in it was bad to pick them up. I just more mean that you're a victim of circumstance. So I think Mills was a really good pickup this week. It's just unlucky that he went down with the calf in the first 2 minutes. That stuff's just freaky unlucky. So Anderson into a good matchup and he drops at 88. Anyway, that was probably been the biggest blessing, even though I didn't start with Oliver. And I think starting with him was probably right. It meant I didn't pick up a bad option that burnt me this week. But yeah, chanced the 119 into Bont to go bigger. I thought he might have the Cripps matchup, and Cripps has been leaking points to mids. Didn't work out like that. They put a bit of time into him. And I think Bont had only had, 2 scores at the very start of the year. This 107, this 189, below 125, and everything else had been over. Yeah, everything has been over 122. So I was happy going either him or English as captain. And look, I'm glad I went Bont over English, that's for sure. I think if it was 120, I probably would have taken it. I know 125 is usually my mark, especially when you got mids that are averaging 130. So anyway, only losing 7 points here is fine. The more annoying was I had the Hopper emergency on and took it off because I'm like, it's the last week he's in my side. There's no way he's getting injured on a score that I would want to play one of these bad rookies over. And sure enough, he did. I thought that having the cover might be valuable, which is pretty funny because Davey then was a late sub change and ended up just scoring the 7, which is just dreadful. But yeah, so Petrarca, I guess this is a positive message. So Petrarca for me was my trade-in from Took Miller after Took Miller got injured. And, I was just lining up the soft fixture. Petrarca has very good splits in wins versus losses. And you could see there was 3 wins coming up that they should do well in. So he's been a 146 3-round average for me and gone up a bunch of cash in that time as well. I think I got him for about 580. Yeah, 576. So he's gone up like 75k. But I took Miller 40 first and that trade, and then used another trade to get to Petrarca, which has been obviously good for me. But I think this is the same thing for others. Like these bad things can then arise to good circumstances. So just try and make the most of the disaster that's happened, the carnage that you've got, and try and trade into good stuff to make it happen. All right, the GWS boys, I put all 3 of them together so I could review them all at once. It seems to be each week kind of getting like somewhere between 100 and 110 average out of them. This week, closer to the 100 mark. Kelly did really well, but the other 2 not as much. I thought Green was going to end up on a higher score, but he faded. And same with Cogs, actually. Cogs started this game really hot and faded in the second half. Pie's a little bit restrictive, so it's not, to be honest, unsurprising. They have Saints this week, which could be a good matchup for points, although Saints can be pretty restrictive too. We'll see. I'm a bit worried that the Saints really get a hold of them, especially if they've got something to prove after the week that's just gone. But yeah, Kelly, I've been happy with the starting pick, even though I traded him back out, which was silly, and then traded him back in. I think he's been a fine enough pick. And then, Green obviously has been amazing for the price that we got him at. So, yeah, happy with both of those. And yeah, having Cogs is annoying because I didn't get Butters as a result of having Cogs, and I'd much rather have Butters. I love watching Butters. All right, Hopper the 43, calf injury. Sounds like he's out for a couple of weeks. He's got to go this week. Sincotta, just hoping that he holds. He was definitely one of the poorer performers for Carlton's side this week, although the game didn't really suit him. I'm a bit worried that that's probably also true when they play Collingwood this week. And then of my very dead bench over here, I think there's a good chance Davey gets dropped because even when he came on in the 4th, the sub didn't set the world on fire by any means. And then Johnson has served his 2-week suspension, so there's a good chance he's actually back this week, although Freo's been playing better the last couple of weeks, so I don't know if he gets in straight away or if he has to go back to the 2s. I'm really hoping he plays because he's someone I'd love to be able to loophole this week with Constable to get scores. And then Constable, they say he's close and he's, almost there. I just don't think he's coming back anytime soon unless we get lots of injuries. Like Atkins has gone past him now. They said Fiorini's playing over him as well, if he goes back to that midfield spot. So I just don't think he's close to getting a game. And it sounds like Euland's been good in the 2s, who might then get a go if they need to put in another half back rather than Atkins or something like that. So yeah, this bench is just awful. We've been lucky this year that even though we've had injuries and that kind of garbage, we haven't actually had like laid outs on Sundays that we can't do too much about, apart from I think Witts was the only bad one. So, yeah, I didn't want to fix up this bench. Rux, not having Darcy this week definitely hurt because he put up 60 points on English. I'm still happy I made the trade. Much happy with English, and he's been a great vice-captain. But, yeah, that's a good week for Darcy owners for sure. And then Marshall, despite all the concerns about his ankle, managed to get up and put a 130 on the board. He's now up to a 110 average, which is very nice, especially for the price we paid for him. Which was near 500k. So there's been a lot of haters on the old Marshall. He's only 2 points behind Darcy, but he was 50k cheaper. Both been good starts, to be honest. And then these 2 have been injured. So yeah, it really is English and then one of Darcy or Marshall that you wanted to start the year. We will talk about Cameron. I guess we can touch on it a little bit now. We're in the ruck, so let's talk about it. People are going to be looking at Cameron as an option this week to trade in. To be honest, I'm not sure I like it. Cox has come back and played really good, so I think they've probably got a chance to ease Cameron in a little bit rather than just smashing him into the ruck full time. They were kind of playing 50-50 splits with him anyway, but I'm a little bit worried about how he looks coming straight back from injury. Carlton's an all right enough matchup, though. He might come back and be fine, and I guess this is the risk because his break-even's 55, so he could come in and absolutely blitz this break-even. And then you have to try and get him next week, and it's a bit awkward because of the price point. But I'm probably avoiding Cameron this week. I'd rather wait and see another week. And then Gorn is the other interesting ruck worth talking about because he had about 35% forward time this week again. So he's still tracking roughly in line for potentially getting DPP with a forward status. And if he gets it alongside with Walsh, then they both become pretty relevant. Gawn, obviously, because he can then become ruck cover as well if you're not getting a Cameron. And then Walsh, yeah, I think just becomes the number one forward if he ends up getting it. Maybe he's number 2 behind Trent. No, he's probably number 1. But yeah, I mean, for those that went Gawn this week from whoever they had, it's been okay. Last week was good. This week, not as much. They play Port this week, who leaked points, so at least that should be good for Gawny. All right, and then forwards. I mean, yeah, didn't have Butters, who was the best of the bunch this week. Everyone else kind of went 90s from those premium range, apart from Goulden, who's gone back-to-back 156s now, and he's up to a 108 average, which is nuts. For those desperate for VCFC options this week, I guess you could look at him against North, but he's obviously been a really good starting pick as well. And then on the rookie side, I mean, Ryan's been definitely a bit of a cash gen saver. Chandler had the poor game. It's pretty funny, right? Because like both him and Ashcroft had this track record of like 90s on their home ground. So Gabba and the G. Ashcroft put 100 on me. Chandler went 40. So I don't know. Clearly only held true for one of them. They had the soft matchup as well in the Hawks. Very frustrating to say the least. It's, he lost a little bit of money this week. It's time to go for Chandler. Hopper lost 16k. That's a bit annoying that they only had 1 or 2 more weeks to go anyway until their break evens were going to be quite high, and you had to trade them out, and it's just they happened to lose it both on this week. So 97 break even, 105 break even. They're going to be pretty easy trade outs to me. Ryan's good, and then Mitchell we already touched on. Okay, so let's talk some trades and trade targets, some philosophies, some priorities. All right. Firstly, we're considering buys. Got to consider buy. So if you don't have SuperCoach Golds and you're not willing to fork out for it to have the view in your SuperCoach team, then pull out an Excel spreadsheet. It's what I do. Plug in your own kind of details and figure out what your buys look like for each of these rounds, where you're going to be good, where you're going to be bad. For me, it is round 15 buy. So I cannot trade in premiums into this round as much as I want them. So it strikes out options like Walsh from me, who I'd love to have, but I just can't. Can't look at any other dogs. So players like Libber are no good to me either. Can't look at any North players. Not that like Simpkin or LD really speak to me, but and then Butters I'm obviously locked out as well. So that's pretty rough. Although, what's his price at now? It's probably going to be too expensive to be a real option, 564. How does it compare to some of these others? It's more expensive than Rosie now, which makes sense. Cogs is 40k cheaper. Right. Do love some Butters, but yeah. Firstly, consider your buys as you do your trades. It's not as big of a worry on rookies because you're just trying to get the best rookies that'll play and get cash gen. But if you can work your rookies around it as well, it really helps. Secondly, if you've got a injured player this week, so a Mills, for whatever reason you held Parrish, LDU, Steel and Lead depending, but if they're out 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say at least 2. You can sometimes hold with 2 if you've got really good cover, but most of us don't. I'd be trading all these guys out and I'd be using a boost. In fact, even if I didn't have a boost, I'd be using them, trading them out anyway. You want to keep your upgrade cadence going, maximizing points on field to stay with the pack this week. So I'd be trading all of them out, especially throughout 3 more weeks, probably 2 more weeks as well. If it's a 1-week thing, you can hold on these guys. Just a reminder, Steel and Lead probably okay. It sounds like Hopper, LDU, Mills, and Parrish will all miss at least 3 weeks. So I'm guessing all 4 of those are trades. The only other one was like Hollins, who was really unfortunately subbed out in this game. I traded him this week, but he should have gone much bigger because he was looking good. It was weird to trade him off in the 3rd quarter. So his break-even's 57. I think you could still hold him as a rookie. All right, other rookies that probably need to go. So Chandler we mentioned already. Hopper can go. Like mid-prices rookies. Warple actually did all right, despite I think his CBA is dropping off. Let's have a look. So he scored 71. Dropped a little bit of cash, 7k. Obviously jumped off him this week. 58. So yeah, CBA's kind of held. Good matchup against West Coast now. So you probably could hold him because whether he plays half forward or mid, he probably should score well here. Then the problem is the break-even's 99. So yeah, that's tough. I'm guessing Ashcroft's break-even is quite low again. 85. Oh, it's actually like reasonably high. I mean, Ooh. Oh, he's got the 37 that drops off after this week. So you can kind of hold him at least 2 more weeks. Yeah, I mean, I think if you've got Ashcroft, you're probably holding him as long as you can. Now, maybe up until his bye. Other rookies that are worth talking about. If for whatever reason you have Ginby, like he obviously reset his break even, that's a hold now, easy hold. Setterfield CBAs went up, I think, back into the 60% range with no Parish in the side. Break even's now 68 after scoring at 87 on the weekend. You can hold him just given Essendon's nice matchup in the next three. So Richmond, West Coast, North, all friendly sides for midfields. And when Essendon gets up on top, Setterfield likes to go for those easy kick marks, a little bit like what Ashcroft did to us, and that's going to boost his score up as well. So I think Setterfield is one that you can hold now if you've got bigger problems, no worries, and you've already leaked some of the catch, so turn around and generate it back up. Who else needs to go? McKenna we talked about can go. Oh, Philippou, for anyone that still holds Philippou. He dropped 8k. His break even's okay now. It's 33. He's had two. Nah, I mean, this is still pretty bad. He's got no money in him though. I'd probably just hold now. This has not been a good starting pick. Old Poo. All right, and let's talk some trade-in targets. So there's the premiums we'll go through, the cheap targets we'll go through, and then the rookies. I'm going to start with the cheap ones just because it's fun. So we already mentioned Darcy Cameron at 494k. I think you can go him if you really do love him as an option. I just have a feeling it's slightly risky with him coming back from injury and not knowing how they're going to integrate him back with Cox into the side. I'd probably rather wait a week. But if you are still missing lots of forward spots and it fits your buy structure, then you can probably go early on him. The other ones, if you're looking for some deep cuts, all right, Redmond is one of those players that had an amazing split in Essendon wins versus losses. His break-even's now pretty low, so he's bottomed out on price here at 445k. This is very cheap. And so if you believe that he's going to, once again, have some of these big scores against these easy opponents, went 176 on North last year, then you could potentially look at picking him up, although he obviously didn't have a good game against Richmond last year. So yeah, that'd be my defender, smoky cheap option pod. In the midfield, we're looking at Chad Warner. So the fixture for Swans is neither here nor there. Obviously, North this week is good. But with Warner, you've got Mills now out of the midfield, so expect him to take on a little bit more responsibility. He's at 510k, so he's also pretty much at the point where he's bottomed out. But he's got a 3-round average of 108 now after a really poor start to the year. So he's definitely underpriced on what he can produce if you're looking for a cheap mid option. The other one, which I'm worried to even throw the name out, is Matthew Kennedy. So just under 350k here. Had a good score last week, 89. The problem with Kennedy is he's been thrown around a lot in Carlton's side. They played him at half back for a couple of weeks. This week he came back in and played midfield time, so he got 60% CBAs. It's the most CBAs he's got this year. And he looked okay doing it, played defensively on Bont a fair bit. But they sacrificed Chera, who then had one of his worst games of the year in doing so. So do they continue to move this around and play him in different spots? It's really hard to back him in at 350k. Also has the last buy, which is the one I'm trying to avoid. And I don't really see you making enough money off him between now and that buy to jump on him and then flip him. People are going to ask about Rao, although I guess at 540k, he's now more in the premium territory of those guys that we're comparing to rather than some of these mid prices. The grass-fed beast himself, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing it. Maybe we get a Miller update and Miller's not here until the end of the year, but the time to jump on was probably a couple of weeks ago when he was sub 500k or whatever he was. Yeah, I mean, yeah, here you go. Richmond, around this range, he was 460k. That's probably when you needed to jab on. I think it doesn't really present much value now, and there's other more proven premiums you'd rather get on than Rao that don't have the risk of them losing their scoring once someone like a Miller comes back. And then I think that's it for the mid prices. Of those listed, probably Warner's the one that most interests me and the one I'm most likely to consider trading in. Redmond doesn't work for me just because I've got enough defenders already. And if I'm going to try and get another one, it's going to be, I need to save a spot for Dawson. Of the rookies, let's go there next, and then we'll land with some of the players I'm targeting on the Primo range last. Let's bring up some break evens, some cash cows here. So Bailey Humphrey will start because that's one people are going to ask a lot about this week. Had a 117 on the weekend, which was huge. Now up to 213k. And for those that spoke to me about Bailey Humphrey in the last week, you'll have heard that I said that I really like his game the last couple of weeks, where he's been able to move up the field more and play more on the ball and more of like a high half forward role, moving up into stoppages. And yeah, he was really good on the weekend, which is great. The thing that I'm worried about is that it was, this 117 was against West Coast. I'm really worried about their next 3 games in Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, and Adelaide. I mean, the first 2 in particular, where I just can see Gold Coast getting rolled pretty badly and Humphrey going back to scoring maybe more like in the 40 to 60 range, which is what you'd expect a first-year half forward to score, even though he's big-bodied and looks good at the level. So if he was 100k cheaper, sign me up. This is a very easy pick. But at 213k, it's probably a no for me, even though he has the best buy, the one that we probably covered the most. I think this is probably a pretty risky one to jump on. And we saw with Atkins as well. Like, yes, you can get if he scores a 50 the next couple of weeks, he goes up 80k, but then he can top out and stall out pretty quickly after that. So this feels like a last resort if no one else gets named. Harry Sharp is probably the one that I'm biggest on this week. He looked, after a pretty poor first game, he looked really good this week, I thought. Really liked his game against Essendon. He scored pretty well too, a 68. And looked much more comfortable, most comfortable I've seen him at AFL level since he's been playing. Funnily enough, I think he's played like 8 AFL games now, and like 3 of them have been against Essendon. Like, very weird. But the concern with Sharp is what happens when Rich comes back, who's the only best 22 player that I believe is out of their side at the moment, and he's returning from injury like this week, I believe. And so there's like a few things I could see happen because you got McKenna and Wilmot playing across half back. They could drop Sharp for Rich, and then Wilmot goes back onto the wing. Although I feel like Sharp played better in the wing than some of Wilmot's games this year. McKenna's been pretty out of form the last couple of games, so maybe he gets dropped for Rich and they keep Sharp on the wing. I'm not really sure how it's going to happen. They could maybe drop Leicester as well. I think the thing that I do worry about is, like, even if Sharp holds his spot, he's really around that 20 to 22 range player. And he could be like someone that they use as a sub on a given week as well. So those are the concerns, but I do like him, and he does have a nice buy, that first buy, which most people get through pretty easy. But yeah, he's also the cheap one that's worth thinking about. So if he holds his spot and Rich is back on the side, I think Sharp is one you have to look at. Oh, Artie Jones scored a 92. Oh, he's up to 215k now. That made most of his money last week. That's crazy. All right, no. Tom Berry had his second game. He's now on the bubble. To be honest, hasn't really been impressed by what I've seen from him so far. I wouldn't be surprised if he's dropped once some of Gold Coast injury list returns, so he's just a flat-out no for me. Mitch Nevitt was the one I talked up all last week and just didn't jump on. Scored the 71, so for those that did jump on, I think he looked pretty good, and he probably got himself a little bit of job security for the future. But, I mean, yeah, for this week, he's now too far gone. Weddle, for those that didn't jump on last week, could you get on him now? Like, maybe. Especially if, like, Sharp gets dropped, then maybe Weddle is the next best cheap option. And then Drury played a pretty poor game from what I can see in the score, 17. I didn't actually get to watch too much of the North game. I think the only thing that might work for his favour is that North had about 3 or 4 injuries. Like Marnie did his shoulder, so that'll be out for a period of time. LG Hammy, that's out for a period of time. Tucker had some hamstring tightness. He's out for a period of time. So there's at least 3 injuries they had that may help him hold for another week. But I think there's a good chance he gets dropped or gets considered to be dropped. So that's no bueno. And then Aaron France is probably the only other one worth mentioning here. Oh, Dill Williams was definitely the player last week as well. Gosh. So they finally played him in defense this week, and he's gone from struggling and scoring 30s to a 95. North, maybe not the best. No, North might be all right because they at least get the ball forward enough and they can kind of turn it over. So if we heard the McCartan brothers were going to be out for a much longer period of time, I think like Francis is up with the you could consider alongside Humphrey once again. Not a terrible buy being that first buy, but 215k for someone who could get moved forward at a given moment, and we don't know when his replacement's coming back. I think you probably just have to pass on him, even though he was someone I was high on in the preseason of like if McCartan was out for a period of time, they brought him as an intercept defender. He could be a good rookie for us. I just think it's probably no. So I have a feeling it's Sharp is the one that most likely to consider at the moment. The only thing, like Drury's got the bad buy, but he's cheap is the only nice thing there. Fleeton debuted. I thought he was actually all right. Played kind of like key defense. Chess is the other one that could be back this week. So just given the injuries on West Coast, his job security is pretty good as long as he can stay healthy. Will Gould is nothing to talk about. Dempsey got subbed out and his job security is poor. He's probably dropped this week. O'Donnell got subbed out as a first game debutant. Not worth talking about. Baldwin was the other one that was a debutant that played defense for Essendon, but he's going to be out. He's 173k anyway. He's going to be out as soon as Ridley's back. So, yeah, all right. So trades this week for me. Hopper's got to go and Chandler's got to go, just given break evens. So, trading targets in the midfield. I think you can't go wrong with Clayton Oliver again this week for those that don't have him. Laird is someone that I think I would like to be able to say jump on this week, but I just don't think you can. Petrarca, I feel like you'd be overpaying for now, given he's more expensive than Oliver. I would be avoiding him, and he's gone through that easy, soft fixture that I targeted anyway, so I think he might come back to the pack a little bit. Yeah, Sarong, I wouldn't really be targeting. When's it? Oh, Freya's got the first buy as well. At least it's a decent buy with Sarong. He's been good this year, to be honest. Maybe you could go Sarong. Neil is a wait and see. Libra, I wouldn't be targeting. Walsh, yeah, if you can accommodate the last buy, I think he's probably still a good buy at 610 just because he's going to be like F1. Parrish is obviously a no-go, and that's probably going to tie into who I am targeting this week, which is Zach Merritt. I think the only concern with him is what was going on with some of the Essendon mid-rotations. It's been like a month now of this randomness where they've been playing around with stuff every week, and there's been different things that have happened. So obviously you had Merritt get suspended, and so for Anzac Day we had like Caldwell in there. Setterfield dropped off a little bit. Then we had the Cats game, and we played Stringer in there to kind of like combat Dangerfield, and he played really good. And then for the Port game, and then against the Cats we sent Dylan Shield forward as well. That's right. And then Merritt didn't get many CBAs. And then the week after, Merritt CBAs went back. Shields went up a little bit. Setterfield lost all of his and played wing a lot. And I think that was because of the shifts that had to be made in game due to Ridley being out. And then the Brisbane game, it was kind of a bit of a shared all over the shop mess. And I would have thought that some of these would have gone up with Parrish out, but Caldwell was the one that got to have 71% CBAs. Didn't do a whole lot with them. I thought Hobbs was a better player, but he didn't get any CBAs. And then Stringers went back down. So I don't know what's going on with Essendon. That's a long way of saying that. But I do know that Merritt is durable. Famous last words. 564k, he's a cheap price. And Essendon's fixture is one of the softest from here home. And that mid-buy, I think I can accommodate, even though I've got Oliver and Petrarca. Others will have like Oliver and Laird. But yeah, 3 in this buy is not great. But it's, it's fine, I think, because we'll have a look afterwards. But I don't think I've got many more after that. And then I'm probably going Sharp here as the other target. So let's get Cogs into the forward line and go Sharp, even though I do have money to look at some of those more expensive options if I really wanted to. But I think having the extra cash is probably good here. There's maybe some argument to be made for like, should you hold Chandler to get his points on field? I mean, he could go well against Port, to be honest, but yeah, I think probably not. Ooh, apologies, it took so long for SuperCoach to open. I'm now yawning. So yeah, let's just have a quick look at the buys after that. So oh no, I hit optimize. Oh no, anything could have been done. All right, undo, quick. So yeah, that 14 by missing Petrarca, Oliver, and Mera. I mean, Davey might be gone by that point. He's a bit of a dead rookie, but I really don't have much else missing, so I think I can accommodate that pretty well, as long as it's not round 15. I think that's it. Yeah. So Mera I like as a trade target this week. I guess if you're still looking at the cheap options and you don't like Warner, Brayshaw's around the 546 mark. He's got that first buy. That's probably the one I'd look at, but I don't like love it as an option this week. And then vice captain, captain. Where do we go? What's English like against his history against the Crom? Yeah, so. Quickly having a look at these games. I honestly haven't checked until now. So is Bont's history against Crom good? Not really. Oh, he had a 200 in 2020, but otherwise not amazing. Merritt's got decent history against Tigers, but I'm not going to put the captain on him. Don't have that much faith. Dacos might be able to go big on Carlton just because I don't think they tag him. Okay, so what's Oliver's history on Port like? Because they've got like some of those bodies that you could send to an Oliver to tag him. You know, like come on, please work, like a Drew or a Pow Pepper. But tagging Clary hasn't really been that effective this year. Maybe they tagged him last year because that's where he dropped the 68. It might have been actually they might have sent Drew to him in that game. Helped us get him cheap last year. GWS play Saints. I'm not going any captains there. Taranto against Essendon could be alright. Brisbane into Gold Coast. I'm not looking at anyone from that matchup. It's probably just this again, to be honest. Marshall like isn't necessarily a bad shout against Flynn, but I think with some of his injury concerns, I'd be pretty worried about that. So it's probably Oliver into Bont this week, which is very boring. It's the same thing again. But that does start to happen at this point in the year where you've got people that start to separate themselves. Unless you see some really smash matchups, then you just kind of stick with this. All right, so in terms of then rookies and whatnot this week, I want to loop Weddle with St. Cotter. So that would, assuming Cowan doesn't play, I think this allows me to do that. And so, by the way, this is like one of the big things. Like, how do you avoid poor rookie scores? It's using your loops where you can, especially we've got so many donuts this year, to try and make sure that you're getting the best scores on field. Ryan, I'd be happy to straight up field. Oh, actually, let me just figure this out. Yeah, so Ryan, I'm happy to straight field. And then I've got to play a rookie in the midfield. And I'm hoping that Johnson's back so I can loop Johnson and Sharp with Constable. And that'd be the third one. So yeah, then basically I just need one of like Sincotta or Weddle to score well, just one of Sharp or Johnson to score well, and everything will be hunky dory. I might be able to loop one more or get like Mitchell up here instead of No, I think it has to be like this. Yeah, I can't really loop Mitchell as well. I might be able to play around with that and figure out how I can. Okay, and then we got Madden as the last one, so that's a really easy captain loophole if I need it. All right, so I think that's everything for this week. There's so much to cover, and I feel like I will have missed players or trade outs or trade ins that you're passionate about. So make sure, as always, you hit me up in down below with what you're looking at. If there's players you're hoping I'd talk about that I didn't, I'll try and address it in the below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the Fantasy Take TV podcast this week, most likely assuming all goes well. And yeah, have a good week, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.